introduce a little bit Water Campus. And I see that Roxanne indeed started the recording. Just to inform you a little bit about the Water Campus and where the Water Campus Business Challenge is part of a bigger program. So Water Campus is based in the Netherlands, in the north of the Netherlands, in a town called Leeuwarden, and has three, you could say, mother organizations. The first mother organization is WETSUS, focused on fundamental science. The second one is the Center of Expertise Water Technology, focused on applied research. And the third one is Water4All, focused on the business side. In total, we have 340 companies connected to Water Campus on a long term. So we have more partners that we work with, but 340 companies are long-term committed to our ecosystem. And we have around 40 knowledge institutes, mainly universities in Europe connected to our ecosystem. Together we form this what we call innovation circle. WETSUS, it's where I will start. Based on the market demand, WETSUS is developing something out of nothing. So they do a lot of fundamental research, all focused on real water-related challenges. Then you have something that works on lab scale. The Center of Expertise Water Technology picks up and is doing applied research to scale it up to pilot and full size. And then you need to bring it into the market, and then Water4All comes around supporting the companies. I have one slide for each organization just to give you a little bit background. So the first one is WETSUS. They have 110 company members. Every member pays around 30,000 euros per year to be part of one or more teams of WETSUS. They have 50 professors connected to the research program. And on research table, they decide on the technologies that they develop. And of course, you can receive the slides afterwards, so you don't have to take pictures. The good thing is that due to the fact that the companies are so close to the research, almost all patents that come out of WETSUS are commercialized. A little bit different situation than with a lot of universities. Then we have the Center of Expertise Water Technology. They have a lab facility called the Water Application Center, and that's where they do a lot of their pilot testing. Scaling up technology, sometimes technology that come out of WETSUS, but in many cases also technologies that are invented by companies where they help them. And they are very much related to the universities of applied science. Besides scaling up and conducting applied research, a lot of companies also find their new staff members through the Center of Expertise Water Technology because they work so closely with students. And finally, we have Water4All, where we focus on entrepreneurship, business, and acceleration. Things that we, for example, do are market intelligence. So we do a lot of market research for companies, networking. We take them to trade fairs. You see the picture of that. We set up consortia, do international matchmaking, etc. Quite important because the Dutch water sector is mainly SME companies and the business is mainly abroad. At Water Campus, we have what we call a lifelong learning program. We already start on primary education, so with the very young children, and every school in our region every child in our region will have a training from one of our water professors in their primary education period. Then we have also a program for secondary education, high school called in some countries, and there we have things like honors program, but we also do a lot of research that they do and support them in their research. Then we have a program from Civ Water, also part of Water Campus, where they do mainly vocational education. We have the Center of Expertise Water Technology for the bachelor, We have a joint master program at Wetses. And we, of course, at Wetses have a lot of PhDs, always around 60 to 70 PhDs working for Wetses. And we do a lot in business education, but I will go a little bit more into depth in that later on, because that's where the entrepreneurship education is located. Talking about entrepreneurship, we try to support startup companies in different phases. We start with inspiration, so that's even before a company is started. So all PhDs, for example, get an inspirational program also on entrepreneurship, then go all the way from education, incubation, acceleration, and finally to growth. And we support them in 5 pillars. And today we talk about the pillar talented people. So that's about entrepreneurship training, but we also have a pillar on knowledge, market, facilities, and capital. Capital, for example, is funding that companies need. Facilities are the lab facilities that they can use, the demonstration sites that we have. Market is how we support them to get into the market, connecting them with partners, etc. And knowledge is if you are a small company and you do not have all the knowledge yourself, it helps you in finding, we help you in finding people that do have the knowledge. For example, on IP or on how to set up your administration for a subsidy project or whatsoever. Some examples of companies that came out of our ecosystem, and we see after 20 years, because we are around now 20 years, that we attract more and more investments, and these are some examples of the last 3 years. Companies can choose what kind of support they want. I think that's very important. For example, Susvos, they used support from the pillar talent, from the pillar capital and facilities, but we never supported them in getting into the market or something in knowledge. So it's like a cherry picking model that we developed. Overall, since I think 15 years ago, we have now 103 new companies, and of which 47 are direct spin-offs of our own research. Now going to the topic of today, which is business education. Here you see our entrepreneurship programs. We don't do it all by ourselves. We have Jorn here today from founded in the north. I must say, not founded in Friesland anymore. We work closely together with a business school, with an accelerator program called B-Start, and also with the University of Groningen. And today I would like to tell you a little bit more about the European Water Campus Business Challenge. So the Water Campus Business Challenge is a 5-day program. So it's just 1 week. We do it once a year, and we did it for 15 times in the past years. The days consist of first day, welcome, and something about the theory on business model generation. Second day about value proposition and market analysis. Third day about pitch training, business strategy, and a CEO dinner. Fourth day is end user perspective and IP protection. And the 5th day we have a pitch session with investors. So looking to those subjects, it's not like a real rocket science. You will find those subjects probably in every education training where you go to. We have written it all down in deliverable 3.9 from Water4All. We will also send this to you. So it's a deliverable where step by step it's described how to organize a business challenge. But if it's not rocket science, if we then look to the evaluation of the program, we score quite high. So on a scale from 1 to 10, we score a 9.3 on how likely they would recommend us to other startups, and a 9.4 on the overall organization of the program. And the question is, why is it ranked so high, so much higher than other business education programs? I have some pictures now on the next slides, and my final slide will be on what I think are the unique selling points of this program. So we start with visiting of the facility. So they come in an ecosystem and they get to see everything around on Water Campus, and walking around in this on the Water Campus will also directly get them in touch with other entrepreneurs, students, etc. So they really have the feeling that they are in a water technology ecosystem. Everything we say, everything we do is about water technology. So all the participants are also water-related startups, and they finally find people that are more or less in the same situation as they are. So if they join a more general startup program, it's different than talking to companies that really try to set up business in the same field as you are. We will connect them with all relevant stakeholders, with customers, with potential partners, with investors, and we make sure that they get interviews with those companies. Sometimes online, because the companies are not always around, but in many cases also live. We have lectures from real specialists, also knowing a lot about the water technology sector. Specialists, you think about IP, for example, but also a lot of mentoring from entrepreneurs that went through the whole circle of setting up a company in the water sector. And we have a dinner with CEOs on Wednesday evening. So then we invite around 40 of the most important CEOs of the Dutch water sector. And as you can see, they join. And during the dinner, the participants will move from one table to another table to speak to as many CEOs as possible with their specific business case and their specific questions. And we help them in preparing the questions that they need to ask. And the table setting is also organized by us. So we ask which CEO is most important for you, and we make sure that you will sit next to that specific CEO. Then we have a pitching session where we have a lot of investors that can directly make a deal. And at the end of the day, we also have a winner. And actually, winning is not that important, but it will give you at least a little bit publicity on your startup. So I now come to my final slide. What I think are the success factors. First of all, the very sharp focus on the water sector, on actually the water tech sector. Secondly, it's only a week, but it's really high density. The participants really at the end of the week say, "Oh, I'm happy to go home because I'm so tired. There happened so much during this week. I made so big steps, but now I have to digest everything." We have a tailor-made program for each participant. So we have the next one in March, and we asked all the participants for March already, what kind of companies do you want to talk to? What is the important questions that you have, and how can we support you? And we are now connecting to our whole broad network to make sure that for everyone, they have the feeling it's the program for them and not it's more like a general program. There's exceptional access to CEOs, investors, and decision makers. The CEOs really like it. We also do evaluation with the CEOs, and they say that the CEO dinner is maybe the nicest dinner that I have during the whole year, because it's really about young people, young sometimes in mind, really about new innovations, about energy. So I really like to be there, and they even ask us if they can be invited for that dinner to meet the startups. They really make progress during the week. Some come in with only an idea. Some are a little bit further already talking a little bit to the market, but they all go away with a complete business plan and a connection with investors. It's peer learning, so they have people like themselves around, so in the participants, but also in the speakers. So the CEOs also have been in the same situation as these new entrepreneurs. And we have now a proven track record. We had over 200 startups joining this course, and a lot of them are still around. So that in a nutshell about the business challenge. I had 20 minutes. It's 9:21. So I hope you're satisfied, Roxanne.
Yes, thank you very much. So we have some time right now for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to just raise your hand, open your mic, and ask questions. Yeah, we have one question.
Yeah, Eva?
Go ahead.
I
Eva?
cannot hear you.
No, sadly we cannot hear anything.
Okay, let me go to Catherine.
Yeah.
Oh, no, now we hear you, I guess.
Okay, now?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
we can hear you, yes.
Okay, super. Is this event designed just for Dutch startups or for international entities as well?
Yeah, very good question. We've had startups from all over the world participating in the challenge, from the US to India to Brazil to almost all European companies.
Okay, how and when we can, a startup can enroll, or how the procedure looks like?
Yeah, so they register with Roxanne, my colleague who's coordinating that. And then depending on the number of participants we already have. So normally we have a group of a maximum 15 startups. Otherwise, it's too much for a week. They can participate, and we will look to their business case.
Okay, and what's the fee?
The fee is quite cheap. It's 750 euros for the whole week, including your hotel and all your dinners, etc. So it's normally sponsored by, and we did 1 year with Water4All sponsoring. We did it with Dutch funding, etc. So normally we find some funding for the program.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll keep it in mind. Thanks a lot.
Yes, Catherine?
Yes, thank you. It was already answered. I was wondering how many companies participate in the challenge. So you say around maximum 15.
Yeah, otherwise it's too much. For example, like the pitching on the final day, if you have 20 companies, the day gets a little bit too long. You could have, of course, then split up in 2 groups, but because we want to make it so tailor-made, it's also good not to have too many companies participate.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you for the answer.
Any more questions? Okay. Yeah, Juanita, go ahead if you have any question.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I would like to know, how do you select successful startups to participate in the program?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we didn't have to select at all because we were happy with every startup that wanted to participate. But we have had years where we have more registrations than participants. And then we do it like normally an investor also would do it. So we look to the team and the commitment of the team. We look to their business case and the technology that they develop. So the innovation of the technology. And based on that, we can make quite a good selection. It's not that we always go for the startup that is further in the process of developing the company. It's also, are we able to help them? So if it's in a technology field that is closer to where we have a bigger and a better network, we will select that company.
Okay.
Sorry, Roxanne, regardless of the phase of the startup or the idea.
The idea, yeah. So not specifically the phase of the startup. That's not really important. We also have PhDs that want to start a company participating. But last year we already had also a company from Portugal that already had commercial turnover. And for them, it's not about the theory that we share, but it's more about the network that they get. Well, for the PhD, it's more about maybe the theory and speaking to the first customers, but a little bit less about the network. So it depends a little bit on the phase of the startup.
All right.
Okay, I'll stop share my screen then.
Yeah. Any more questions, or I think we're good. Yeah, well, thank you very much, Ronald. Now, for the second part of the class, we are going to have Jornt guide us for that part, and it's going to be a workshop. So you also have some knowledge and some understanding. Of course, you already do, probably a lot, about the core focus on problem solution fit, and also maybe some more like applicable, easy tools to use later on. Jornt works at Founded in the North. He's a business developer and a trainer there. And Founded in the North is a company that basically helps inspiring entrepreneurs, startups, and scale-ups in the north of the Netherlands develop and grow. So, Jornt, I will give you the floor. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this introduction, Roxanne. I don't know if is there anybody that actually needs to grab a cup of coffee or needs to go to the toilet before we actually start? Because I know I do. After half an hour, usually in the morning, I had way too much coffee. So if it's okay, Roxanne, I would suggest that we do like a 3-minute break. We start off in approximately 3 minutes, and everybody can do a potty break and get a cup of coffee. Is that
I
okay?
definitely agree. I
Okay,
would,
Catherine is very happy about it, so perfect. All right.
Good. Yeah.
All right, see you in a sec, yeah? Roxanne, are you there? Are you back from your coffee break? Potty break?
I am now. All right.
Ah, perfect. All right.
Yes.
So type
Okay.
something in the chat. Type something in the chat for me if 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 you want. That's okay. Just see how it pops up in my screen, yes or no.
Okay. Did it pop up?
No.
No.
Shoot. Okay. No, that's okay.
Worst scenario case, I can always read the questions.
Yeah, you have to. I think maybe you have to do some moderation for me.
Yeah.
But
No
that's
problem.
yeah. All right.
Yeah. Do you want me to stop you in middle to ask the questions then?
So what's going to happen is obviously because it's a workshop.
Yeah.
It's not only going to be me that's going to do the talking. So
Yes.
people are gonna. So preferably I'd like to use the chat a little bit. And sadly I can't see the chat. I don't know why.
All right. Then I will let you know if there's a question in the chat.
Let's see. Maybe it works like this. All right. Here we go. So, is everybody back? Let's see. I don't necessarily have to see your screens on because I know that doesn't work online settings. But if you can give me like a thumbs up, then I can see if everybody's kind of present. Can I get some thumbs up? Does it work? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Roxanne. All right, it's a hand. It's a hand. It's okay. That's not a thumb, but a hand works. Perfect. All right. Hooray, hooray, hooray. So, thank you for the lovely introduction, Roxanne, and I hope you had a nice break. You're already encaffeinated. As Roxanne already said, it's a workshop. So what a workshop means is that it's interactive. However, interaction within an online setting is pretty difficult. So we'll see how far we go. And that's why I want to use the chat. And my first question to all of you is, where are you actually from? Because that matters, kind of. So if you could start chatting away and let me know where you're from.
Portugal.
Oh, you can put it in the chat. Is that okay? And if you don't know how the chat works, just shout it out. As long as not everybody does it, it's fine. So I got one person from Portugal. Perfect.
We have also Netherlands, Colombia, France, Poland, Brussels, Finland, Ghana, Kenya, Tunisia, India, Finland, more Netherlands,
Wow.
Benin, Czech
All right.
Republic, Canada, so
Wow.
everywhere, Zambia,
So
Sweden.
we're in a global meeting. All right. And then
Yes.
this is the most difficult question I'm gonna ask you all, but it's the most important question. And that is, why are you here? And keep it short, but why did you think I needed to join this session? And if you see some answers popping up, Roxanne, please start talking to me because I can't read them.
Yes, peer learning, learn from global experiences, be part of the team to learn from the best, how to get business from research, learning. I am a founder myself, business idea and learning, mentoring capabilities increase, learn more about Water4All to learn how to start, how to support startups, understand the scaling of water startups, learning and networking.
Lovely.
There are
Okay.
more coming up, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is perfect. I hear that there's a difference in audience, but that's okay. All right. So I as I hear from you all, you are all working kind of on startups, and that's perfect. So that's why we're here today. Today we do a train the trainer, and before we do a train the trainer, you need to introduce yourself. Although Roxanne already said some nice words about me, I think a proper introduction for the next approximately hour to 15 minutes. You need to know who you're talking to, who's talking to you. My name is Jorn de Boer. Um, and I'm a business developer at Founded. And I'm going to talk to you about what Founded is. But above all, what's very important is what I do. Well, I've been working at Founded and been working with startups and pre-startups for approximately 8 years. That's actually quite a long time if you think about the European Union and startups. The startup ecosystem is relatively young. It's still growing, it's still maturing. There's still leaps to go ahead of. And in my yearly basis, I do approximately 50 workshops. Usually they're not online, so this is the first time since COVID I'll do something online. So let's see how it goes. And above all, what's the most important part is I speak to approximately 100 startups every year. And that varies from time to time. So sometimes it's even more than that, but that's an approximate. So do the math. Within 8 years, I've spoken to loads of startups. All right. And I've learned a lot during that process. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So something about Founded. Founded is what we call a startup ecosystem. So what is the startup ecosystem? Well, we are the party that tracks and measures everything that's about startups and scale-ups in the northern of Netherlands. And here you see the map of the Netherlands, and this is the northern of Netherlands. What is the northern of Netherlands? Well, the northern of Netherlands contains Friesland, Groningen, and Drenthe. And you can forget that, all right? But what is actually very important is the figures. And what you see here is that our startup ecosystem is relatively small. So what you can see here, and these are the figures of 2005, is that we have registered 427 startups and scale-ups, that we see 60 new startups appear every year, that startups create a lot of jobs. That's why we get funding, because everybody loves new jobs, and that there's been loads of money invested in the startups. And that's why we also get money, because municipalities love to see more money in the region. All right. If there are any, and what phase is our startup ecosystem? Well, we're in the activation phase, which means we do a lot of stuff because there's not a lot of giving back yet. So we are still in the early stages of a startup ecosystem. So we need to push as much energy into it. And that means doing a lot of stuff, workshops, acceleration programs, helping startups, because nobody else is doing it right now. Well, okay, that's about Founded. Then on to the workshop. And before I go into the workshop, I have the question number one is, what is your job/role? We kind of talked about that. So what I would like to know from you is, do you speak to startups? And if your answer is yes, then yes. And if your answer is no, then no, it's fine. And if so, how many?
So we have yes, 5 a month, yes, 4 times per month so far.
Perfect. All right. Is there more
16 a
people coming in?
year, 10 per month,
All right.
30 startups a month.
Wow.
I'm an
That's a
investor around
lot.
15.
All right. Perfect. So,
Yeah.
all right. And then the follow-up question is, what kind of support do you offer these startups?
So guidance on how to test and validate. their innovations, mentoring, financing, feedback, technical mentoring, positioning, looking for support, business mentoring and pre-acceleration, growth, product fitment, CSR support, value their environment performance to facilitate their GTM. I do not know what
Okay.
GTM is, but okay.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mentoring, peer learning, community, investor connection, and more.
Yes. All right. And the final question is, who of you does this by using data, or who of you does it by gut feeling?
So data, both. I would say some data and a lot of both.
A lot of both. Cool. So, all right, perfect. So those are I'm learning a lot here. So thank you so much. Usually within so now I've been supporting startups for a long time, and approximately 8 years ago, when I started supporting startups, we started doing it by using our gut feeling because we didn't have any data yet. And sadly enough, we didn't even have a definition of a startup yet. So we just started supporting everything that was something about entrepreneurial. So luckily, there's a party within the Netherlands, and that's called Grit. That's what you see the logo underneath. And they kind of set up a data system that all ecosystems within the northern of Netherlands uses. And what they also did is they set the definition for startups in the Netherlands. All right. So this is this definition of a startup that we use, and this is very important, extremely important. If you work within an organization that's on startups, you need to get the definitions straight with everybody, that we know what a startup is. All right. So this is this definition that we in the Netherlands, and at least I know for a fact in the northern of Netherlands, within ecosystem parties we use. And it's relatively easy, but the main importance is that everyone uses this. So it's a temporary organization in search of a repeatable and scalable business model. All right, so who of you uses another definition of a startup? Or maybe the question is, do you use this definition of a startup? Roxanne, I need your help.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting. We have 2 yes. So I assume the others don't.
All right. Cool. So then what I'm gonna see is if you do gut feeling. So I heard some people that use data, and I hear some people that use gut feeling when they do startup support. And I used to do startup support on gut feeling as well. And I found out that I'm not really good at it. So I'm going to find out how good you guys are at gut feeling startup support. And how I'm going to test this is by asking you a question. And please don't feel that I'm judging you. It's just a fun test. Usually I give away a pair of free socks if you get it correctly. Sadly, I can't send you all free socks because you're probably way better at startup support via gut feeling than me. But here we go. This is the last and final question before I start giving you a theory for approximately 25 minutes. So here we go. Please give me the 5 key factors of what makes a successful startup. And yes, there are 5. And these are the 5 metrics, by the way, that we use to measure all our startups. And I would like to know if you can simply just tell me what are the 5 key factors what make a successful startup.
strong team, lean management, strong problem solution fit, team, GTM, business model, technology alignment with investment thesis, risk-taking ability, understanding the customer's pain point, team, timing.
Yes, all right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Awareness. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
More?
And yeah, there is more. Innovation and risk-taking ability, solving problems, focus on the customer and problem instead of a fixed solution, good plan and management, market size, market analysis, ID.
Perfect. All right. So what I can hear from you is that you are all definitely in the business of supporting startups. Sadly, however, when we ask this question to entrepreneurs and to supporting organizations, usually what tends to happen is that 95% can't name them all. And that's quite scary when you need to support startups. So here we go. These are the five. It's customer/timing, business model, team, and funding. And then usually what I do is let you put them in the correct order. But because of time restrictions, if you've been interacting with me so long, I will give them to you. So the most important one is timing, but sadly, timing we can't predict. So we can't teach people that. Then the second one, most important one is team. All right. Then the third most important one is the customer and the market. Then the third most important one is the business model. And fourth most important is business model. And then last but not least, it's funding. Yes, funding is last in order. All right. So today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the first steps, and that's problem solution fit and how do you measure it. And we use theory combined with, yeah.
Jörn, we have one question from
Perfect.
Samira. Can you elaborate on timing, please?
Yes. So the sad part is that the timing is most crucial when starting a startup. You're either in the right time, you're either too late, or you're either too early. And but you can't measure it, so that's why we don't teach it. The best way to do this is by using an example. And the example I always use here is one that everybody knows, and that is Netflix, because everybody uses Netflix. Netflix does streaming on internet, but before they started off their company, they always wanted to do streaming on internet. But for in the States, the internet connection wasn't strong enough yet, so they had to survive until broad internet band was strong enough. So they started sending out DVDs to their people's homes, yeah, to survive. And they did that for 3 years until internet connection was strong enough so they could start delivering their actually services. Okay, so and this is a company that actually knew that they were too early. Sadly, however, timing is so hard to measure, so most startups don't recognize this and they don't act on it. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
I hope
thank you.
Okay, perfect. So you're either right on time, you're too early, or you're too late. Here we go. So the theory is based on diffusion of innovation. This is this is the curve of of technology adoption. Then there's 4 steps to the epiphany of Steve Blank. It's a dry book, but he's done a great job. And then last but not least, and that's really important, that is data-driven startup support, and that is by Startup Genome, and that's a report from 2011. So if you ever want to read up on stuff, I would support these. So first of all, we start off with the market adoption model. And everybody has seen this in their life. And if you haven't seen it before in your life, I'm here to tell you what you're looking at. So this is an adoption curve of how a market works. And we came to the realization that all startups walk through market adoption. There's one exception, and that is medtech startups. But all in all, every startup walks through market adoption. And this market adoption is similar to technology adoption. And why do I say technology adoption? Because technology adoption we understand. Market adoption for startups is kind of difficult. So I start off with telling you the market adoption curve, the technology adoption curve by using the cell phone. Roxanne, do you know who was the first person that ever introduced the cell phone, the first phone?
No.
No? Who is
No.
willing to give me a go? Who introduced the first cell phone into the market? Are we getting answers? Otherwise, I'm giving it away.
There's Nokia and Motorola.
Yeah, so those are great answers, but I can tell you one thing, those are not the ones who introduced it. No, the first phone, and I'm talking about market here, right? Markets with an early evangelist. So people that have an actual problem. So here we go. It was IBM, all right? And IBM introduced the first phone that communicated on long distances that you could hold. It wasn't in your hand because it was huge. It was actually bigger than the chair you're probably sitting on, but they made it for the army. Yes. So the army needed to talk to other army people over long distances. And this was approximately in the 1960s. All right. So the 1960s. So this is where, and we market adoption, this is where the market of cell phones started, 1960s. So it's a relatively young market. And then so why did they make it? Well, obviously reasons the army needed to speak to other people over a long distance, and they were willing to pay a lot of money for it because early people in the market have a huge problem, and they are willing to pay for it. How much were they willing to pay? 100,000 euros willing much to pay. Yeah. Okay. So this is where the early evangelists of the cell phone industry started. And then we go on to our early adopters. Who are the early adopters of this cell phone industry? Give it a go. Who's willing to give it a go? Are we
We
getting
got
it?
Motorola again.
Okay, no, you're
Okay.
still too early. All right, because the early adopters were people that were working on Wall Street, and this cell phone was still very clunky, and it was within cars, yes, and these cars were for billionaires, millionaires that wanted to keep up with the indexes, and still they had a huge problem, and the cell phone was still pretty big. It still had like a phone and then a battery over here, and they were still willing to pay a lot of money. How much money? Well, approximately about 5,000 euro amount of money. All right. And then here you go. Who were the early adapters who actually created the market for cell phones? And now you're allowed to say Nokia. Yes, because this is where Nokia made the whole market interested for everybody because they made a phone that was indestructible, affordable, and easy to use for everybody. So there you see, and that's how they opened up the whole market. And as you can see, it was relatively easy for people like an iPhone or Samsung to enter this market because the market was already an existing market. And now, as you can see, as the market is evolving, everybody has a freaking cell phone. Yet, if you go back 60, 70 years ago, nobody had it. All right. So This is the technology adoption I'm talking about, and I use some companies already to as a kind of introductionary, but every existing company that has ever started goes through this market adoption model.
And how does this
Ev-
timeline compare to water startups?
Yes, so they are, and we're going to use examples of them. They are always, there's no exception except, I'm going to say it again, medtech, okay? And so if there's people out there that I'm talking to right now, if you're coaching medtech startups, they don't use market adoption, but all other startups have market adoption, all right? Um, so how does it work? Well, there are within a market adoption, you have 4 stages, and these are the 4 stages of startups from 4 steps to the epiphany of Steve Blank. So you have a startup and a scale up. And in the first stage, you have customer discovery, customer validation. And in the scale up phase, you have customer validate creation and building a company. And now we go on to our first example to see how great we are in supporting startups in the Netherlands. All right. So what do you see here, people? This is a car and it says Lightyear 1. All right. And what you're going to do is you're going to type in this URL. All right. And I'm going to ask you the following question. How much money do you, and you can ask ChatGPT this as well, by the way, how much money has Lightyear 1 raised? And how many customers does Lightyear 1 have? And you can maybe deduct it from their website. How much money have they raised? How many paying customers do they have? The site looks fancy, right? Oh, yeah. Are there answers coming in, Roxanne?
So we have one answer, 100 million.
100 million, yes. And how many customers do they have?
Customers are not in yet. We have 100 million and 93 million.
Can anybody tell me how many customers do they have? What do you think?
Oh, 100 customers.
100.
Someone says 0 customers.
Okay, so who says 100 customers? Ask them how where did he find those?
So we have very few and went bankrupt.
Yes. So this is the story, and I understand that there's some Dutch people here in the room as well. But I can tell you, Lightyear 1 is a company that was one of the biggest scale-ups in the Netherlands for a long time, and they went bankrupt and they got approximately 100 million in invested management money. 80 million, by the way, came from government money that was invested by early funds. Yeah. And they were the biggest scale up we had in the Netherlands. And yet they had 0 paying customers. So if you look, and I put it down right in the bottom, if you look at market adoption, are they a scale up or are they a startup? So money wise, they're definitely a scale up because they got the money to scale. But if you look at their market adoption, they have 0 paying customers. So you are in startup phase 1, customer discovery. All right. And this sounds maybe shocking, but sadly, this happens all around the world. not only in the Netherlands, and it might happen to you or might happen near you. And the sad part is that these are a bunch of students from a university that came up with this idea, and they got loads of support from everybody. And a lot of support was on scaling, but they are actually still a startup. And this is what happens all the time. You get the wrong advice at the right time. All right, here we go. Another example, and this one is in the water sector. This one is quite, this one is maybe a little bit closer to home. So I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but here we go. Who do we have here? This is Sösfors. Yes, okay. And the question is similar. How much money has Sösfors raised? And how many paying customers do they have? Roxanne, are we getting something?
One answered 10 million
Okay, so if you, so
and
it-
500
this
customers.
500 customers. All right. So Suspas was also in Ronald's example because it's started from the water
Water
campus. So if you paid attention, the number of funding was under. Um, who else is willing to give it a go?
€300,000.
300,000 euros.
And more than 20 million from Ronald
Yeah.
Winninga. I think it is.
Yeah.
So we're looking
Okay.
for.
And okay, and I know for a fact that it's very difficult. So if you look at their website, for example, you look at their solution, what they offer, and they have a product, but it's very difficult. And obviously, if you ask ChatGPT, you already get the answer. So there's no commercial selling yet for Sysvas. So what we know, if there's no commercial selling yet, although they're in the pilot phase, they indeed are building a mega factory, and that's why they need a lots of money. But still, if you look at the market adoption, how many paying customers do they actually have? They are still in a startup phase and they're still in customer discovery. So here you can see is that although startups in the Netherlands and in loads of parts of the world raise a lot of money, they are sometimes still in this early phase of startupness, and we need to be aware of this. All right. And our job as trainers is to help them through their stages. Because that's what we do when we do an accelerator program, right? We want them to accelerate through the stages. And that's why if you need to accelerate them through the stages, you need to know what these milestones are. So here are the milestones for you. And there's 3 milestones per life phase. And I'll walk you through the first ones. The first one is finding your early evangelists, which means you need to find people that have a generic problem, and these people all need to have that same problem. They need to be aware of that problem, and they need to be willing to tell you what the problem is. All right. How many of these early evangelists do you need? Not a lot. What we say is, and this is where if you measure problem solution fit comes in, you need like approximately 10. All right. Then you go on to measuring problem solution fit. How do you measure problem solution fit? You go to those 10 people and you ask those 10 people if they actually like the solution that you offer them. And how do you do that? Well, preferably without building anything. And if they say, yes, we like this, then you go on and ask them money for it. And if they are willing to pay for it, you enter the market, and that's milestone 3, or entering market on a not a pilot price, but a commercial price. And when you are on the market, you want to focus on your product market fit. And how does product market fit measure? Well, you use usage, retention, or excuse me, uh, usage retention, or well, excuse me, that's the Dutch one is conversion. Thank you. And then you go on to your repeatable sales, and your repeatable sales are either built on those 3 metrics, and then you do your business model fit, and the business model fit is met by your CAC CLTV ratio. And I don't know how you pronounce that in English. CAC CLTV ratio. Yes, that's how you would put it. Perfect. So these are the 6 milestones you need to go through in all stages. And we need to coach them through those stages. Lucky for us, if you're supporting startups and you ask them to fill in the data, you find out that 95% of all startups are in this early stage. And this is for our ecosystem, okay? So it might differ from ecosystem to ecosystem, but a lot of them are in this early stage. And if you know that 95% of them are in this first stage, then it's relatively easy to become an expert in this first phase, which means finding their first customer segment and help them find this. Because you can focus all your energy on 5% of the market, but all of them are in this early phase. All right. So, and why do we do that? Well, because sadly, the reason why startups fail isn't the lack of money, isn't the lack of customers, but it's acting differently than they need to do. And sadly, we as business developers help them fail by giving them wrong advice. And I'm going to give you an example. So here we go. And I'm going to ask you a few questions again. I'm a startup and I'm in live phase one, stage number 1. And I have the metrics we measure. Talk to you about it, right? Customer, product, business model, team, capital. Okay, which one is gone? I don't know the name anymore, but timing is gone. Why? We can't measure timing. Which one came back? Product. Why do we add product in? Because this is where startups grow the most inconsistently. All right. So what does a startup do? And it's in life phase 1 with their customers. They do customer interviews. How many? 150 interviews, 100 interviews. It doesn't matter. You need to do loads of interviews to get to your early evangelist. What do you do with your product? You don't build your product yet. You keep it lean and mean. You only make mock-ups. What do you do with your business model? You don't think about money, you think about value proposition. So why do people want to buy my product? And what do you do with your team? You keep it lean and mean, as less people as possible. And what do you do with capital? You don't want to raise a lot of capital, so keep it as low as possible. What happens is the following. We as a startup already think that we know who our customers are, so we tend to start building our product. And when we start building our product, we need a huge team. And when we have a huge team, then we also sadly need a lot of money. Okay. And so this is how inconsistent behavior starts. Yes. So, and this happens 90% of the time. Yes. Does this sound familiar to you guys all around the world? Yes or no?
In the between, until people answer, we have one question for the problem solution. What stage of idea is necessary?
For problem solution fit.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna repeat it.
Yeah, repeat it one more time.
Yeah. Just to clarify, sorry, Roxanne, just to clarify, I asked this because you mentioned that to go to the evangelist, you do not need to have the product itself. So I'm wondering like what kind of prototype or like, what kind of maturity the idea needs, because the evangelist in the end is the one who's going to fund the idea, following what you just explained.
Yes, perfect. So what we know is if hopefully what's going to happen, and I'm going to put it I'll make it as clear as possible for you, is what you hopefully do is you do interviews with people, and those interviews with those people are going to end up in data. And when you analyze the data, hopefully you're going to find people that have the same problem. And when you have people that have the same problem and can tell you about that problem, then you know they are actively, probably, hopefully searching also for that solution. Preferably, we also ask them, okay? But we'll get there. And what then tends to happen is if they can tell you what their actual problem is and what they've done to try and solve this problem, then you don't need a whole lot to convince them of what your idea is. So usually what tends to be is just a mock-up or a drawing or even a PowerPoint presentation can lead you to your first sales. So preferably lean and mean. However, sometimes it starts to be a little bit more difficult. For example, there needs to be some proof, right? And then it brings there are multiple possibilities to check it out. But preferably when problem solution fit is only on the initial initial problems. Yes. Later on in this workshop, because this is kind of the core, it will become more clear. Okay. So.
Sorry, can I do a quick follow-up question? You may address it later if it's necessary. But I feel that in the water sector, many ideas are foreseeing problems that will come in the future, like regarding climate change and so on. So maybe the customer does not realize the problem right now because they have other priorities, but this will become priority in the future. Okay. And this is related to what you were saying with timing.
Yeah, Juanita is your name, right?
Yes.
All right. So look at the market adoption. All right. And you're telling me they are not aware of the problem yet. Okay. So if you look at the market, who are they? Who are these people?
I don't know.
Okay, so that's the fine answer. I love that. Thank you so much. So they are whole market people. So they are not aware of the problem. So they are not aware of a solution. So they are just simple followers. So I know for a fact that if you go and do interviews, out of the 100 interviews that you're going to do, 90% or 33% is going to be whole market people. So these are not the people that you should first focus on building your solution on because they're not willing to pay for it. And this is where startups usually make the mistake of building products for whole market people that have loads of needs that need to be serviced. And that's where inconsistent growth starts. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, kind of. All right. So,
yeah.
All right, great. And if there's any follow-up questions later on, it's fine. So our job as business developers is to be aware of that is inconsistent behavior happens 95% of the time. And 90% of the time, that's the reason why startups fail. And make us being aware of it is very important. But making startups aware of this problem is maybe even more important. So our job is to tell these startups about how they should how they should act in the phase that they're in. And that's what we're going to talk about more. But first, need a potty break. I had too much coffee. I'll see you in approximately 5 minutes.
All right. 5 minutes break. See you back at 10:20. Yes, the slides are going to be shared, and the session is also recorded, so you can watch it back later on. Also, if in between you have any questions about the slides we just shared and talked about, you can put them in the chat, and when Jornt is back, I will ask him. Or you can also just ask him.
All right, I'm back.
Right.
I'm back. All right,
Is back.
everybody's back. Let's see. Okay, are there any questions up until now?
No questions in the chat for now.
Oh, not up until now. Okay, so
I have one question.
Oh.
Can I ask it?
yes.
Okay, so you say to not work on your product development for as long as possible, but do the market analysis first. In the water sector, in many cases, it takes years to develop a product because you do
Yes.
have to do a lot of research and development. How would you advise water-related startups? Because you can find a market for a product, but if you don't have the knowledge on, for example, how to take away PFAS from water, how are you ever going to be in the market?
So this is gonna be a cliffhanger, Ronald, and sorry to do this to you, but this is gonna be the roundup of the session, and we're gonna use the example of Syspos for this. Is that if that's okay for you? Because this is precisely the right example for this situation, and we're gonna create their perfect roadmap for them. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
All right. More questions? No. Perfect. So we continue. Okay. So more data. Why? Because we love data and we learn a lot from data. So here you go. In the Netherlands, startups are very inconsistent. Yet in the US, the inconsistency of startups is a lot less. Although there's still a lot of inconsistency in premature scaling, it's a lot less than in the Netherlands. And why is that? Well, people usually say money, money, money. Yes, it's part of it, but it's only fractional. The real reason is that people in the United States are more market orientated. And why is that? Well, they get to teach it and they get it as classes in school. Entrepreneurship is more of a thing. And so that's where we as the Netherlands can help these entrepreneurs by teaching them how to be great entrepreneurs. Hey, and this is the most sad part about the insight is because inconsistent growth leads to funding. Yes. So these startups seek funding to grow more inconsistent. And this is where those huge amounts of money come from, for example, from a Lightyear One that built a mega factory to build a car that runs on solar panels. Um, and they still don't have one paying customer. So um, making startups aware of this is very crucial. Yes. So market adoption. This is what we talk about. It's important in every sector. And how do you start off? Well, we talked about it being 95% of all startups are still stuck in their first phase. So that first phase is finding their early evangelist. So how do you do that? Well, you do it as following. An early evangelist, and that's a person that will help you enter the market, has 5 assets. It means they have a problem, they are aware of the problem, they're actively searching for a solution, and preferably they use a suboptimal solution right now. And last but not least, they need to have a budget. Okay, I'm gonna do something that I didn't prepare for, but I'm gonna try and see if I can get an example from the audience. Who of you is supporting a startup right now and can tell me, yes, this startup has found their early evangelists? None.
No.
Nobody. Shoot. I was hoping that it would work, but that's okay. So the example I'm going to use then is that of Hulo. And for the people that don't know Hulo, it's not really important to know what the Hulo does, but there are also wetsuits or spin out of wetsuits, and no, I'm not using Hulo. I'm using another example. We need to find wait. Um, mm, yeah, no, that's too difficult to explain. I'll use my own my own perfect example that I use all the time. So, once upon a time, before Jorn was a business developer, he started his own startup. And Jorn was a student, and Jorn wanted to start a company within beer brewing sector because every student loves to make beer. Yes, everybody. So, because Jorn started a beer company, he wanted to do something sustainable. So Jorn started a sustainable beer company brewing beer from stale bread. All right. And stale bread means bread that came from people that throw away their bread. Yes? All right. So do you think Jorn found his early evangelist? Yes, he did, but he didn't find them in the place where he thought he would find them. All right. So, who do you think for Jorn with the stale bread beer? Who do you think is the first person that Jorn sold his beer to?
Other student?
Other students. All right. Yes, I did sell to other students. Yes. So why did they buy the beer? I don't Roxanne, did you see who it was it wasn't a rhetorical question.
Price, people who wanted to get rid of the bread because it was cheap.
Ah, okay. So
Help
here
a
you go.
friend.
Yes, that's what happened. So I sold to other students because they wanted to help a friend, but they didn't have a problem. They weren't aware of the problem. They weren't actively searching for a solution. They weren't using a suboptimal solution, and they definitely didn't have budget. All right. So Jorn did struggle, however, Jorn did find some enthusiastic people, however, that kind of bought his beer. So he just went on and built a factory. It was a small factory where he could brew his own stuff. And it took me approximately a half a year because some student friends of mine bought my beer. So I thought, hey, I'm in business. So Jorn got some money. I ran for an innovation fund because brewing from stale bread, everybody thinks it's awesome. And it took me approximately half a year and I got myself a microbrewery. And suddenly I wanted to sell my beer. And nobody wanted to buy my beer because the students thought it was too pricey. So, what did Jorn do? Are people giving me advice?
No, just
Okay,
someone
okay.
was surprised there was no regulatory limitations.
No regulatory limitations. Oh, there were. I struggled loads. So I had to do, so it took me half a year to get all the regulatories, omgevingsvergunningen. Yes, grant. There was loads of hassle. Yes. I think I've probably talked to at least 30 people from municipality before I could start. Yes. Yes, it was a huge hassle. Okay, so what should Jorn do? Give Jorn advice. You are all business developers. You are all code startups. What should Jorn do?
I have customer interviews,
Ah, okay. What else?
analyze the market.
Okay. How do I do that?
If you want to open your mic, Catherine, to develop, you can do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a marketing specialist, but I think you have to analyze what's around you and see how you can sell your beer to people, and maybe who would be the most interested in your product and why. And
Cool.
make with
Perfect.
interviews is a good way, I think, because this is the real world contact that you can have, but maybe not only interviews. You can also analyze what's around you, what other beers are existing, if there are other microbreweries, how they
Yeah.
work, and who they sell to.
Yeah.
And, well, you do
So
the
I
whole
was
SWOT stuff, and
obviously, so I wasn't stupid, so I did all of that, right?
yeah,
So
I imagine.
actually, the beer was a collab between 8 microbrewers, and
Okay.
I marketed as the sustainable beer for the capital of Leeuwarden 2018 because that was what we were. We were the European capital. So I think I did my marketing correctly. I even had a logo on it. So what happened? I didn't sell my beer. Okay, so thank you for your answer. So the only great advice would be, although Jorn has spent all his money on building a factory, he should still be searching for his early evangelists. So he should do customer interviews. Yes, customer interviews. And what did Jorn do?
Customer interviews.
No, of course not. Jordan went to the first person that wanted to help him, and that first person was a college professor. And the college professor said, "You should what you should do is run a course." What course? This course. So Jordan joined the local incubator, and the local incubator said that Jordan should do market analysis. And then I went on to the municipality. All right, and the municipality gave me an other answer. They said, "What you should do, Jordan, is that you should collab with another partner." Okay. And then what happened is obviously I had a fellow entrepreneur friend, which I went talking to. And that's where I luckily found my early evangelist. And this is what tends to happen all the time, people, is you get advice from a lot of people, and we tend to listen to the advice that's nearest to our heart, which is easy. All right. And the easy one isn't sadly always the right one. All right. And how many advice do we get? Well, we measure it within our startups. So this is my example, but we also measure it. And what we can measure is that startups get approximately 5 advices a year from other persons within municipality, within an ecosystem. And sadly, there's most of the times, they're not the same advice. All right. And that's what we as an ecosystem want to uh, well, get rid of. Okay. So here we go. What did Jorn do? Jorn went to a friend of his that owns a local brownies and downies. And if you don't know what a brownies and downies is, it's a shop where you can buy beer brownies for people that have a syndrome. Okay. And I went to this entrepreneur and I said, "Oh man, I have this huge problem. And nobody's is willing to buy my beer." And he said, "Oh, that's so sad. Um, maybe I can sell it for you, but nah, I'm not really looking for a beer right now." Okay, fine. And then I said, "But I also have another problem. I can't find stale bread." And we got talking about stale bread, and suddenly I found out that the brownies and brownies has a huge problem. He has a lot of stale bread. And I asked him, "Oh, really? How much stale bread do you have?" Well, he told me, "I have approximately 30 kilograms of stale bread every week." And I said, "Shoot, that's a lot." And here you go. So he's aware of the problem. So, and how do you actually solve that problem right now? I asked him. Well, he told me, "I'm throwing it away in a bin, or I'm actually throwing it away in the underground. I actually put it sometimes, and this is not a lie. He said, I put it in the paper bin because it costs me less money." All right. And then, so that is definitely a suboptimal solution. And then I asked them, if you put it in the hole in the bin in the ground, what does it cost you? He said, "Well, it doesn't cost me a whole lot, but it's the hassle and the shame. So I'm very ashamed of throwing away all this stale bread." So his budget didn't necessarily come in money, but it was more in feeling. All right. So Jorn found his early evangelist, and Jorn's early evangelist were people that want to buy beer, but that were people that wanted to get rid of their stale bread. And You wouldn't believe it, but if you tell an entrepreneur, hey, you have still bread, and I can make beer out of your still bread, and you can sell your still bread back to the customers, suddenly it's a perfect story and everybody wants to buy it. How many people before I did my sales pitch? I had a 5% hit rate. After I found out that the problem was the stale bread, 95% of all retailers wanted to buy my beer. So that's a huge success. Okay, so here's my story of how to find your early evangelist. And this is what happened after loads of struggles. Cool? That's me as an example. Why do I use me as an example? Well, it's relatable and it's a relatively easy one to understand because it's beer made from stale bread. It's not necessarily highly innovative, but still there's a kind of innovative component in it, and it has the option in there of building a brewery. And this tends to happen a lot within the water sector as well. You need to build stuff, which costs a lot of money. And because you need to build stuff, you need to first know who your customers are. Who your customers are. Okay, so within your early evangelists, you also have different people that are involved within it. And these are your types of customers that you have. All right. So you have an end user, you have an influencer, you have a recommender, you have an economic buyer, and you have a decision maker. And these are the people that you need to interview within your early evangelists. All right. And you need to know which one are which. And I always use one example, and I'm going to try and use one of you in the audience for this. And I see here Katarina, you're in my screen, so I'm sorry, you're the one I'm going to ask. Okay, you ready? Yes, you're still muted.
Yeah,
All right. So, where are you from?
Belgium.
Belgium. Okay. What did you have for a treat or dessert when you were younger?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay. And so you were the end user, yes? And you had chocolate. So, who bought the chocolate?
My parents,
Which one?
my mother,
Yeah, very important. So, okay. And why did you eat the chocolate?
mm, because I liked it.
Oh, yeah. You've seen it before, probably.
Seen it before.
Yes,
Yeah.
you probably have a specific chocolate in mind.
Well, well, I don't know. Maybe.
No, okay. So this is the steering question I'm trying to get you to answer, right? But usually what tends to happen is you got influenced to eat this specific chocolate. And this influence usually comes from friends or from the TV, or it comes from maybe your grandparents, or it's just cultural inherent to eat this type of stuff after your dinner. So, for example, in the Netherlands, you always eat your vlees, right? So, and I can already tell that you were the end user, but you were probably also an influencer because you influenced your parents, who were the economic buyer, to actually go and buy the chocolates. Yeah. And they wouldn't buy the chocolates if not everybody around them would recommend this process. So and then eventually your mom was the actual decision maker who went to the shop and actually bought it. Yes. So this is a very simple example of it only being the project, the sample of you buying what you have for a treat. But this process happens in every buying decision and within every template. So when you do your customer interviews, be aware that you're not always talking to your end user, but sometimes there are influencers, sometimes there's recommenders. And when you're talking about big projects, the decision maker usually has another problem than the end user, because the decision maker, your mom, isn't thinking about what beautiful taste she has in her mouth, but she's thinking about what costs the least amount of money. And you're just thinking, I want the chocolate.
And on the more healthy, maybe also. No?
No, probably. So there you go. Thank you. All right. So thank you for participating. So here you go. Types of customers, very important. And they're all important. We don't discriminate. When you do your early evangelist interviews, they're all important. So that's the fun part. Okay. So here we go. We know that 95% of all startups are in the life phase number one. Life phase number one is finding our early evangelist. Finding your early evangelist is the pyramid, right? That have a problem, blah, 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 blah. And how do you do that? Well, you do it by customer interviews. And there are multiple types of interviews that you can do. And we as a program or we as an institution as founded say there's only two ways you can do interviews. What are those two ways of doing an interview?
Cold calls.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cold calls.
Or face to face as well.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Also, meet at workshops, short pop-up surveys, and getting an introduction from someone in your network. Industry
All right.
seminars as well.
Oh, lovely. Okay. So, yes, I like all of these answers because I didn't see anybody say necessarily a survey. I did hear a pop-up survey, but what you want to do is you want to do either a observation or you want to do customer interviews, okay? And customer interviews are always done face to face. And you talk to the people and you look them in the eyes and you know if they're telling you the truth or they're lying. And what tends to happen with surveys is that people tend to be ambiguous and they tend to lie and they tend to give you the answers that you're willing to hear. And that's not why we do interviews. So that's why we do either face to face or observations. And how do observations work? Well, those are very effective. You look at customer behavior. However, when you're talking about novel innovations, for example, getting phosphate from water or from the slip within a canal, you can't observe people. So it's very important that you do customer interviews. And how do you do them? Well, preferably you script it. And why do you script it? Well, because you want to know the answers. And what are the answers you want to go to? You want to understand the problem. Yes. So who is it has the problem? Understand who it is. So within the DMU, yes. And then the last one, and we haven't talked about it yet, is identify the alternative. So you want to know who are your competitors and if they can tell you who your competitors are. Because if they can tell you who your competitors are, easier than that, it can't be because you simply need to be better than the competitors. There you go. Okay, and if, for example, your competitor is a hole in the ground, for me, it's the beer, still bread beer, offering them a solution that's better than that, it's relatively easy. There you go. So, how do you do that? Well, preferably you script it. You tell them, the startup, to actually make the questions and put it in the script. And then to make it easy for people, we have made like a form for that. And then most importantly, you want them to make a data analysis of it. Yes, and this is where the magic happens. So, because when you've done all your interviews and you've gathered all the data, you can relatively easily find your early evangelists within those data blocks. All right. So this is kind of the theory part at the end. And I got some fun stuff still in mind for you guys. But in the end, my opinion is that everybody can support a startup as long as you have the data and you leave your gut feeling out of it. And the most important questions you need to ask is how many customers do you want? Because if you look at market adoption, then you set up their end goal. And then they tell you how many customers do you have right now. And if they say that they have 0 customers, then we know what the advice is that we can give them. And 95% of the time, they were going to say that they have 0 customers. So the advice that we can give them is relatively easy: do their customer research. Okay. Now, before we go on, there's room for questions. And if there's no room for questions, then what we're going to do is we're going to do a deep dive into a case. Cool? Questions?
Also, feel free to open your mic and ask the questions.
Yeah, open mic is fine.
Yeah, I would like you to please tell more about the interview part, because it's easier said than done. How do
Yes.
you approach the people? I find it also
Perfect.
very difficult, like you have a script and then the conversation goes in another way. And I'm a researcher myself, so I'm used to this, but still I
Yes.
find it very challenging. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more, some tips and so on.
Yes. So, okay. So, yes. So this is the fun part where actually researchers, so PhDs turned entrepreneurs, are really good at it because they've done it before, and they tend to stay away from ambiguous questions, and they tend to be very rigorous in the data analysis. Okay. But trust me, the first milestone, finding the early evangelist, is the most difficult one. Yes, it takes startups approximately 1.5 years if they do it at all. Okay. In the Netherlands, 95% don't get this milestone and they survive for 7 years. And if they do it, it takes them approximately 1.5 years to actually get it. And within a 1.5 years, they talk to approximately 100 customers. And how do they get those customers? Preferably, what I would say is always you need a warm introduction, because you want to kind of know these people and you don't want to sell them on your solution. So you only want to talk about the problem. And this is where the difficulty comes in hand, because it's an open conversation where there's nothing really in it for the other person other than a conversation. So preferably what you have is a warm introduction, because otherwise what you're going to do is you're going to sell yourself short and tell already what it's all about. And then the person in front of you is already biased, right? And that tends to happen a lot. So what we always tend to do is uh, send out entrepreneurs to do 5 interviews, and we call these the 5 or 1 or 2 interviews, and we ask them to come back. And what tends to happen is we call these the bullshit interviews. They go over and ask the people that they know, and only ask them leading questions. And the first answer I always get is yes, they love the solution. And what's the main driver of the first phase is finding out the problem. So you're not even allowed to talk about the solution. So tips and tricks. Always, preferably, what you want to do is get a warm introduction. Never, 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 never talk about the solution. And preferably, what hopefully helps is, if you kind of already know the person, then they're willing to talk about their problems, then you're in the right direction, because people love to talk about their problems. All right. Well, it was Juanita, right?
Yes.
Does this help? No, it's hard work.
Yeah, maybe just out of curiosity, a follow-up question, because you mentioned that it will take like 1.5 years to find your early evangelist. So
Yes.
how can people support themselves while doing this? Like, is there also like kind of funding, and not only funding but support to do this
So
research?
so most here in the Netherlands, at least most of the programs that are done for early phase startups is to help them with their interviews. So if you join the local incubator here, or for example, the Water Alliance, the program that Ronald talked about, market analysis is all the courses are pretty much this. Yes, Ronald, you have a hand.
Yeah, maybe to add to that. So we do know that the problem is finding your customer, and that's why we also set up an end user platform as Water Alliance. So a group of customers that is willing to support startups in finding the connection between the technology that they develop and the problem, to make it more easy to connect to customers. Because if you're not know them, it's hard to get the warm introductions, and we help them with the warm introduction to customers. And the fact that it takes so long is that only 2.5% of the customers is your first customer. So if you do 100 interviews, you only have 2 with the same
If you're lucky.
problem. If you're lucky, yeah. So that's why you need to do a lot of interviews, because you want to find a problem that more customers have than only one. So because if you're only one customer, it's not a real solution. So that's why you have to do a lot of those interviews as a startup.
On a more practical note, it was asked if you could share the slide with the script as well. Like,
Yes, of course. I'll send it to you, Roxanne. You'll distribute it, right?
yeah, but also
Perfect.
show it now, let's say.
Oh, show it now. This one? Or that one?
This one.
Or no. All right. More questions? No questions. Perfect. This is now we're gonna have some fun. All right. Ronald.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ronald, what was your question?
Yeah, so if you are developing a technology in the water sector, it takes a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of development time. So it's hard to already go in the beginning to customers. And if you then start to develop your solution, you will be probably bad in timing. So you will be probably too late. So how does it work?
Yes, it's very difficult. And we're going to use Sysfos as an example, if that's okay with you guys. And how we're going to do it is we're all going to make a development plan for Sysfos. Cool? You're all developers, business developers, okay? Yeah? So what we know is that Sysfos is a company with a technology within the water sector that are active right now in the region of the northern of Netherlands, and that they kind of got a lot of money. All right. So what you're going to do right now is you as a business developer are going to help her Sysfos go to market. Yes. All right. And you are gonna try and tell me how you are going to help Sysfos go to market. Cool? Good luck. And the website is, by the way, it's in your history. This is the website, right?
Maybe a short explanation about what SASFAs do, or is
So
it not?
preferably no. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the pitfall number one, is knowing too much about the company, but that's preferably my way of looking at it. No, preferably we do set a timer though. 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes. I have to leave. Okay, yeah, sorry. Be in touch. Have a good one. If you have any questions, get me on LinkedIn. Bye. Who's willing to give it a go? Who's willing to give it a go?
Yeah, I can do it, but I know the case, so that's maybe not really fair.
So if there's nobody else, then Ronald, I think that you're the perfect setup. But I'm hoping that at least somebody's willing to give it a go, Ronald. And there's no judgment, people. Yes.
Yeah, Hans
judgment.
said go for small scale pilot with waterboard waterschap.
Okay, who's Hans?
Hans Marcus.
Hans
That's
Marcus.
me. Hello,
Hey,
Noord.
hello, Hans. Thank you for joining. Okay, tell me, what did you do? You know the case, by the way?
Well, roughly from a distance, not in detail like Ronald, but in a distance, I know the case and I know some people there. And I think
Yes.
it's a little bit a struggle to have the right possible clients to the table, getting them to the table. So that's why I would advise this, what I wrote down.
One more
And
time. What was your advice?
maybe Roxanne can repeat what I wrote down. I can't see it in my own screen now anymore.
Go for a small scale pilot, waterboard or waterschap, with a waterboard or a waterschap.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so your advice is to go for a small scale pilot. For whom? For waterschappen.
Yes.
Because they're gonna pay for it?
That depends, of course, and you rightly pointed out that you first do a survey to have many interviews, and probably one of them will have a problem big enough to give them a chance.
Cool.
But again, this is a view from a distance, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Is there anybody else who's willing to give it a go? Somebody from across the world that's willing to give this customer this startup some advice.
Alejandra has answered in the chat. I don't know if she's still in the call, but she says, make sure the founder truly understands, communicates what the value proposition is, do a market research yourself, market reports, dive deeper than your customers' feedback, and identify TAM, SAM, SOM, and then identify the competitors and the incumbent players.
Perfect. So, yes. All right. So, thank you so much for sharing. There's no right or wrong, okay, within it, but I do think that data is very important. Last but not least, the Ronalds. You know the case, obviously. Would you like to share what your advice would be?
Yeah, so Marissa participated in the business challenge in 2016, so I know her case since that moment. The challenge of the case is that the value is created on a different place where the investment has to be made. So value is created when you sell the phosphate that they take out of the incinerated sludge. And the incinerated sludge is from waterboards. So part is what Hans said, that you have to test the technology at waterboards. They have to do the first investment, but at the same time, the added value comes only if they sell the phosphate, and a waterboard as a public utility is not an organization that is selling the phosphate. So our first advice to Marissa was at that moment really understand the market and really understand where the value is created, and have interviews with waterboards, which are the most obvious. The organizations that incinerate the sludge. In the Netherlands, there are 2 factories. And also with organizations that buy phosphate, for example, to produce flame retardants or whatsoever, and then create the whole chain. And she's now in the phase that an incineration plant really invests in building a full-scale installation. And she also has pre-signed up, let's say, customers that are going to buy the phosphate. But it was quite a long road. She's working on it now from 10 years. So our first connection was in 2016 when she was still a PhD. And she now has a company of over 20 people or something working on it.
Yeah, lovely. So your advice back then was to do interviews, and they started building. And as the scam might say that they're still in the process in this first phase. So I completely agree with you, Ronald. And but I will add the following part to this. What we see with the roadmap of startups within the water sector, or that are heavy into industry, is that their roads to success is even more difficult than a regular startup, because in essence they need to build 3 different plants, and every plant that they build has an other early evangelist. And so first of all, you have a demo plant that needs to build a pilot plant, then you have the demo plant, and then you have this full scale plant. And what startups don't necessarily always keep in mind, that these 3 different plants all have their own setup and their own DMUs, and that you need to be aware of them, and which makes this process even more complex than it is before. And that is why the only advice that can be given at the moment right now is be sure that you do your customer interviews, because as Ronald has said, the journey is long, really long, and you need to keep in contact with your customers. And it doesn't, in this case, might not always be a customer interview to get commitment, because they always already have, but they need to stay in touch. They need to stay in touch. And she's done a beautiful road. So hopefully the full scale plant will be there in 2027. And that's the point where they enter market. And if we see each other in this class, maybe in 4 years' time, we can look back at this case and see if our advice given right now would help, or that the advice would be different. I already heard that there's some people leaving. Thank you all for joining from my part. Roxanne might have some closing things to say. If you want to talk to me maybe in person or ask a question, you're always welcome to hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll put my name in the chat. And otherwise than that, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jornt. It was a very informative, very nice session, if I may say so myself. Thank you all for joining. Next week, Tuesday, we will have the next session on market solution fit, and I hope to see you all there, and I hope you enjoyed this session. So thank you very much. And if you have any question in the meantime, you can reach out to me, and we will share the slides, and also the video will also be at some point uploaded on Water4All. So thank you all. Yeah, goodbye.